Thanks to join my channel here over at Subscribe. Thanks to everyone over there, especially Vegan for the pocket knives and the cool LED flashlights. So nobody cares about Blue Beetle, sorry, Angel Soto, or Hollywood in general. Now, it's in your lifetime you're gonna see a massive restructuring in Hollywood, which would have been like in 2019. There's an article in Variety magazine. Maybe we'll cover it at the end, where they're talking about the hits, the billion-dollar hits in 2019. You're like, that was only 4 years ago. What happened? Holy cow, a lot happened in just a few years. I mean, I'll take a look at that at the end of this thing. So Hollywood is in the case of a few years where people are looking at Hollywood and they've kind of fallen out of the habit of Hollywood, of going to movies, of the whole popcorn and there's something to be said for watching a big screen theater experience. And I do not want to pass it up. Like, even you have the best sound system at home, it's just not the same, because in the theater you're like, okay, well, I paid $15 for this. I'm not going to be looking at my phone. There's an immersive effect that you don't have in your living room because you have distractions, or maybe you're more disciplined than me. But it's like that. I would rather go to a theater where I know I'm not going to pull out a phone. I wouldn't do that. Then we'll watch something at home. And I don't have that kind of system. I'm watching stuff on tablets. Anyway, so people are kind of like falling away from Hollywood. And movies now are not creating legacy characters on screen, and also legacy audience sort of things, like continuations. They're not creating generations of new viewers, and they're just doing everything wrong. They're alienating the old audience. They're doing exactly what you do if you sought to destroy an industry, where you seek a new audience, but you're chasing away the old audience. And oh, hey, magically the new audience isn't materializing. Oh, can we get the old audience back? Well, they're not even making an attempt to get the old audience, because the old audience in their worldview are all Hugo Boss, whatever, because they come from the wrong part of the world. What are you talking about? Like, just normal people? Yeah, but some of them might be vaguely conservative and not want to, like, I don't know, trans kids or something. Oh, literal Nazis then. Yeah. That's the Hollywood worldview. So Mission Impossible might be, I don't know, when that might be the next film I go see in the theater. That might be the next solid hit, and it might even be a big one. But the thing is, the rising tide lifts all boats, right? But one boat alone has a hard time. One boat alone is not going to get people back into the theaters in general, because there's just nothing else out there. Like Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, and credit to him for the movie that came, the Maverick, the Top Gun movie that came out, a couple months ago. He can't do it all, though. It seems like with two movies, he's kind of weirdly the one guy who has a formula for, just make fun movies. Oh yeah, why don't the rest of the Hollywood try to do that? Oh, because reasons. Anyway, the thing is, there's a psychological effect with Hollywood where it just becomes so toxic. Like, there's association in people's minds that people kind of start to avoid it in general. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with that movie? I mean, like, it doesn't feel like there's enough of a vibe for Hollywood in general where, yeah, Top Gun hit over $1 billion. I think like 1.4, 1.5 or something, just crazy. I don't think Mission Impossible is going to do that. But as I said that, I guess that kind of belies the point, because I said that would be the one movie I'd go consider seeing. So who knows? Maybe, I mean, there is something to be said for a theater experience. Like, it's like you go see a movie, like, most people probably see a movie like once a year, maybe. So you go there, you get a thing of popcorn, you're watching a movie. It's a whole vibe. Like, yeah, that I do. Like, I haven't seen a movie in theaters in a while. It's like I'm kind of looking for something. I realize, like, yeah, that if there's a movie to see in a theater, that's going to be the one movie that's worth paying for. Anyway, so what happened? Well, the director of Blue Beetle was arguing with the customers about the Batman is a fash in the one of the previews. So the guy who represents the movie, Soto, is arguing with the customers for $100 million plus movie. Do I argue with the people who literally send me money? I'm literally playing with the pocket knife I was sent right now. No, I would never. The idea is inconceivable to me to argue with people who send me money. I should write them letters back calling them fat or something. That's oh, hey, the pocket knife you sent me is the wrong color. Can you please send it in red? That's insane. And my channel is talking about a $20 bill I get from people like once every few months. Blue Beetle is talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, and yet they feel comfortable alienating the people who send them money, in the terms of buying tickets. That's what crazy people do. Here's the thing: arguing with potential customer people listen to this, like, why are anyone sending you money? I think for the BitChute Odyssey videos, not for the YouTube videos so much. So here's the thing: arguing with potential customers hurts the film a little bit, but Blue Beetle was probably going to bomb anyway. The only saving grace is that the budget is only about $120 million, plus say $80 million in advertisements, or maybe even a little bit more. So the breaking even point is somewhere over $400 million, which ordinarily would not be difficult for Hollywood to achieve. But as you're well aware of, things are way different now with Hollywood. And it's not that, yikes guy, touch grass, the Chads aren't boycotting movies. It's just they lost their boner for most films. Apathy, I think, is going to cost Hollywood billions this year. I think you're going to get this death spiral of budgets are starting to come down to the $100 million level and maybe even beyond that. But then there's a crossover point of like what the theaters have to, how long can be in the theater. But the marketing is still going to be about $100 million, because if they don't advertise, and in fact that increases every year, if they don't advertise it, then the movie is guaranteed to tank. So they got to spend on marketing, even if they're spending a lot less on the movie, because even if they suspect like movies are not going to do well, at that point you realize like, well, then why are we even in the movie business if we kind of are looking at like DC and Marvel movies and Disney movies and all those other the genre movies, the movies that have series. They had years ago they come out with like all the movies that are on the horizon. Like Roundhead Johnson is going to make these three movies over here, and Abrams was going to make these three movies over here, and then same for DC and everything else. And now you're like, so what happened to those movies that were up on the horizon? Like, oh, we're just going to do things on streaming now, because it's a streaming. You can spend $200 million on a streaming series and make dozens of movies. And it's just not the same for the big screen. So like all that, it's like it's a failure, but Hollywood is not really talking about it. So and the thing is, at some point you go like, is anyone who owns appreciable amount of stock going to say, can we turn this around? And the people who are sitting on the board look at him like, you'd have to like legally sue to take over the board to say they breached their fiduciary duty or something. Anyway, the thing is, if Hollywood doesn't really turn around, you need to just make direct to streaming movies and kind of give up on the big screen, which means that the infrastructure has to close and they convert those things to something else. Then the entire big screen industry ends. So they're in this weird position because they're willing to destroy an entire industry to push their globalist agenda, which is great. Absolutely. F Hollywood. I'm going to miss it a little bit, but I don't think it can be saved. So Blue Beetle was a minor character, and it comes at a time when Hollywood has had more bombs than successes, especially in this genre of superhero films. So arguing with the people who potentially were going to pay you money is just peak Hollywood. By all means, please continue. But then after his public Twitter meltdown, he does this interview and he tries to do a little damage control. It's like, get effed, buddy. I don't know how powerful the Phantom Menace community is, but it's not nothing. It does have some effect. So when a director comes out and insults the customer, bounding into comics, bleeding fool, and the YouTube crowd start talking about these things, and it brings attention to a few 100,000 to potentially 1 million people. But like I said, Blue Beetle's only hope is that it was only $120 million. So say the marketing is 100 million, 220, then you kind of double or triple that. So, the thing is, if it still loses money, what does the studio do? Because even big studios are starting to reach the point where they have to start turning profits, but they're not. So you go, okay, well, the next movie is going to have to drop the budget down to $50 million. I guess that's what you do, or you just abandon ancillary characters and stick to. I'm trying to think of the characters that hit big, and I'm thinking of Spider-Man, Batman, and that's kind of the only characters that hit big. Yeah, Guardians did well, and Deadpool did well, and the Joker's going to have a sequel, but Guardians ended at the third film. And the thing is, like I say, Guardians, it was a fun little series. I still haven't seen Guardians 3 yet, just because, like, just the energy's not there. It's like, it's just not, movies just aren't fun because the people who make movies, they really, really hate you, and you're like, I don't want to support them when I can watch it online for free, which is another thing they have to be aware of. And so Deadpool is coming out with the third film, and they're like, I don't think that's going to be like a huge hit. It'll be a success, but like once the energy comes out of Hollywood, it kind of spreads to everything. And something like Black Panther 2, yeah, that made money, but everyone also knows that the energy in that franchise has kind of run out for them. So I don't think you're going to see a part 3 with a trilogy. Like, if they made a part 3, it would probably just break even. And then you got Aquaman, which I know the first one did $1 billion. That was because it came at the right time. People like Jason, the women like Jason Momoa. That was a big part of it. But it was not a great film by like any stretch. And then you've got Amber Heard, who's kind of screwed things up. So like I don't think that next movie's gonna do well. And then what's the other one with Jonathan Majors, who, like, guilty or innocent, you can't have your actors accused of like choking a woman out on a public street. And he was the Ant-Man Part 3 is going to be Kang the Conqueror, which, I was talking to somebody in the comments about the race swapping, and I guess maybe I came to the I don't know, compromise, like, okay, they should have at least painted his skin, put on purple makeup on him, right? Like, they didn't do that. It's like, you still know he's a black actor, but like, you didn't even paint his skin kind of a purplish blue or something. It's like, that's the comics. Comics are ridiculous characters. At least make the guy look like the comic book. I don't know why they didn't do that. But the thing is, so they had him. He was a big part of future movies. There's no way you could keep him in movies, even if it comes out like, oh, he probably didn't do this. That doesn't matter. Like, something went on between him and this woman. Women are just not going to be. They're just not going to support somebody who is potentially an abuser or is involved in some shady business. And then you have Flash with Ezra Miller. And that was I don't know if it's a huge bomb, but it's a bomb of some sort. And you look at Flash and it goes, people are in all this position to go, so you canceled the Batwoman movie, which probably, to be fair, would have been a bomb. But you made the Flash movie. It's like, why is that? Why'd you give this Ezra Miller guy every break under the sun? And I understand it's like the movie was already in development. They already spent $200 million on it. But then now it comes out and they realize it would have been cheaper to, when the weird stuff with Ezra Miller started coming out, with the first thing was up in like Iceland or something, like somewhere like that. He does something mild. It's like he pushes a girl down, but they're kind of playing around, kind of not. It's like that was one thing you could forgive one thing, but then he's going into hotel rooms. You're like, no, 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 no. But when he was doing interviews with Gal Gadot talking about movies, and you saw he was just blown out of his mind. At some point, you look at that and go like, are you saying it's better to lose $200 million now than potentially $300 million in the future? Yeah, but the person who makes that decision is like, who has the balls to make that decision? Which, like, in hindsight, they look at it and they go like, yeah, you really should have cut this guy loose a long time ago and just shelved the movie. But I mean, that's where Hollywood is now. Like, they're having a lot of these kind of bombs, and you look at the successes, and the movies that should be successes, $1 billion movies, like Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. I don't think that was going to be. Could that have been $1 billion movie? Maybe, but you saw it. Like, if you saw, I went and saw it online. You saw how woke it was and how they just, like, they hate they hate not Harrison Ford, they hate Indiana Jones, they hate the character, and they try to just destroy the character. And you go, so you made a movie that's probably going to lose $200 million, but it also destroyed the Indiana Jones character, and it made Disney look stupid, and it made Mangold look stupid. And you went ahead and you did it anyway, and you kind of knew that it was going to go in this direction, and you did it anyway. Like, what are these people smoking in Hollywood? I don't know. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.